simple question. When it came up in your conference,
Please you have a microphone. Speak into the microphone.
am I speaking?
Yes.
Am I speaking? Okay. You just indicated that when you conduct an interview, you should allow your guests to connect with the audience. Does that apply to all guests? I mean, for example, even someone you dislike, like suppose, for example, Bashar al-Assad, would you allow him to connect with the audience?
You try to get she's asking, would you allow everybody to try to connect with the audience in an interview? People can connect in different ways. I mean, it's one thing to be interviewing Mother Teresa. Interviewing the leader of the Revolutionary United Front that hacked off the arms and limbs of men, women, and children is an entirely different individual. You try to get into the rope business sometimes where you give them enough rope to hang themselves. So there's very different approaches. You can have extremes. But generally, whether you like the person or not, the interview will be better if you allow them to, in one way or another, appeal to the audience, converse with the audience, speak to the audience instead of speaking just to you. That's what I meant by that.
Just Adam, and then we move into your.
Okay, I have 3 questions, please. The first one is
They better be easy.
No, very easy. First one, is there a political figure or a leader that you always wanted to interview but you didn't get the chance? That's the first one. Would you like to answer?
Yeah, let me try to think. Somebody that I didn't get to interview.
You tried, but you couldn't.
Yeah, Saddam Hussein would have been one I would have liked to have interviewed. Muammar was a bit of a letdown, as I said. I got to meet Václav Havel. I mean, that was, Václav Havel was the poet, playwright that was elected to become president of Czechoslovakia then.
Okay. Can I ask the second question? Okay. As you were mentioning earlier, that one tweet did not erase 34 or 40 years of journalism. Well, in a YouTube interview made with you, you said that social media is able to reflect your true character, and you emphasized, and you said that 144 character on Twitter could reflect your true character more than a 1-hour interview. Well, for 34 years you worked for CNN, and after one tweet you got.
No, but
the question is.
I think you're trying to connect. You're trying to make the leap that everybody made to connect the two, and you might be in error.
Okay.
So I didn't say.
There's no cause in there.
You don't make assumptions. Anybody that knows Jim Clancy knows that Jim Clancy was planning to retire, not just for the last few months, years.
Okay, I didn't know.
And so I'm not allowed, because of legal constraints, to say anything. CNN speaks for CNN, period. All right? On that issue.
Okay. Third question.
Yeah.
Okay. You have with you Ms. Karma, and I don't know if you know that Al Jadid is being sued for doing a report on the International Tribunal concerning the assassination of Prime Minister Rafi al-Hariri. What is your stance towards having a legal institution pursuing a lawsuit against a media institution?
I don't know enough about the specific case on this one. I read a little bit about it just a short time ago. So I don't know. It's a technical. I have no idea what it's about really, and I'd have to really do some research. I don't want to comment on things that I don't fully understand. It doesn't make any sense to jump in the middle of a media debate without fully understanding all of the parameters and all of the players and just what the hell is going on.
Yeah, but
Makes sense?
It makes sense, but usually media institutions are under the pressure of, let's say, regimes, lobbying, but...
As I said, the criminal defamation thing, all of these issues, I'm well versed in. The specifics of this case that you're talking about, I don't know.
I think you're getting at the principle, right? That a legal institution,
yeah, a legal institution pursuing
to restore truth and justice,
exactly,
then starts lynching out on a media institution. It is nonetheless important to understand the specifics of the case, but as a principle, picking up on your argument, take on the leaders, take the risk. It's our obligation In this region, you are then faced with the consequence that maybe even institutions dedicated and founded on the principle of justice start launching out on journalists.
Can I be the devil's advocate and say that sometimes, maybe the media also want to obstruct, in general, that may become too political and may want to affect a legal process?
Yes, but this is not the case in...
I said in general.
You were
They know far about this one than I do.
We will send you all the details of the case, just so you have a broad aspect on it. And let's take another question.
Yeah, let's move the microphone. So she was waiting.
She's been waiting forever.
Over there. And Elsie needs to have her question too. So we make this round back to Elsie.
I have a question concerning the ethics in media and ethics in journalism. Well, what we have been exposed to lately in our local media, I'm a bit confused in like separating or distinguishing between sensational journalism and actual journalism. As you already said, that as a journalist you need to have both sides of the story. But are you allowed to throw judgment or transfer judgments directly or indirectly to the audience, so you can divert a certain public opinion as a journalist? Either you have a certain agenda, yes or not. But as a journalist, you have both. In a way, you have the truth because you have both sides. Are you allowed to transfer judgments and to your audience?
I don't know whether I'm following you exactly in what you're saying, but when you're talking about the sensationalist media, it's everywhere. I mean, I think everybody in the room knows if you see the word shocking in a link on the internet, whatever you do, don't click on it because it's going to be garbage. It's just in order to get you out there to make you, see it. Sensationalism is used in order to get people to become interested to tune in a program or to click on a link. And the really sad part of it all is that some of the media companies now measure those clicks, and then that's the story that they cover. All the things that are most popular with the people on the internet, they're going to put it in there, into their newscasts or whatever, saying this is what people want, this is what they want to hear about. And so we'll get more viewers doing that, but you're not necessarily serving journalism. You're making more money, or you're making, I think you were speaking really towards political advantage by diverting the attention of the audience using some sensationalist story.
Yeah, as a journalist, are you allowed to express your opinion indirectly on a certain story?
Your opinion is going to come in just by choosing to do a story. You've already expressed an opinion. You've already said, this is interesting to me.
Okay.
Objectivity means trying to give a fair view and a fair hearing to everybody. But believe me, as soon as you decide to do a story, you've already shown some lack of it. I mean, you're interested in a story, you think others should be, make your case.
But if I can just add to this, as the media ethics teacher here, I would make a point that there's a difference between an opinion, which is something that cannot be proven right or wrong. It's an opinion. It's kind of your particular position on it. And I would argue it has no place in journalism. It is very different to present a story from a particular perspective for which you can make an argument why it's legitimate to do so. So while you may not give always the full picture because some voices have been overheard or some discourses have been framed in a way that left some perspectives out, there would always be a justified reason or a legitimate reason to present one particular side of the story. But that's only legitimate if you can make a rational and a solid argument why you are doing this. Opinion, but there are different positions on this, from my perspective, would have no place in journalism.
No, there's one other position if you are basing it with facts and documents and evidence, and it has to do with corruption, for example. It has to do with freedoms of rights. It has to do. There are some certain issues where if you prove your point as a journalist through documents, then.
But that's what I'm saying. When you prove your point, it's no longer an opinion.
I call it's the difference between analysis and opinion. Yeah. Opinion is unproven. It's just I'm talking. Analysis is, for these reasons, This is what I think is happening.
Yeah.
But you can conclude with your opinion, this was my point, in such a case.
But again, is it an assessment or an opinion?
You took
You can give your view on it, but that's not necessarily an opinion.
I don't think so, but that's only my opinion.
Okay, let's move on to Safa has been waiting for a long time, and then behind Safa and next and Elsie.
Safa, journalism student, briefly, if you can tell us, what do you think, in what way do you think the rise of social media has affected selectivity and objectivity of mainstream media?
Well, you know, I just cited the case there where mainstream media, I think, is using clicks to move its stories in the direction of what the public thinks is most popular. And the real hazard of that is who's doing the clicking. You know, are they 16-year-olds? I mean, it's because, I mean, that's why you see all the Kim Kardashian stories. And it's not journalism, that part of it. I'm sorry, the objectivity part of social media? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I'm not hearing you well.
How does it affect selectivity and objectivity?
Well, selectivity, as I noted, is pushing that trend. Objectivity, each report has to be measured up for its own objectivity. As I said, objectivity is something that we talk about so much in journalism. I think that it's out there, it's a pillar, but at the same time, I don't think anybody ever achieves it. I just think that you know it when you see it. Just like propaganda, you know it when you see it. And people can tell the difference.
Hi, my name is Robin Jolina. I'm a political science and international affairs graduate from LAU. I have two questions. First of all, what is your one piece of advice to political journalists? And second of all, if you can go back in time, what is the one thing that you would do differently, career-wise?
The one piece of advice for political journalists. You're going to be standing outside in the hallway for many, many hours of your life. No, it's an exciting part of journalism, and it brings you into the heart of democracy, and you get more or less to be the physician who tells, you tell us how the patient's doing. And so it makes it a very exciting career. And I'm sure people are really going to, those that get involved in political journalism will really love to do it. I never wanted to do it. I had a choice in 1983 whether to begin working on the campaign trail, covering politics, and eventually reporting from the White House, or returning to Beirut. And I chose Beirut, and I've never regretted that. I mean, I have been all over the world, and I have met people, I have seen events, both good and bad, and I've had a lifetime of adventures and learning. And I intend to share some of that and to give back. What would I do differently? I don't know. I even grew back the mustache. See, I had a mustache when I first came to Lebanon. I had a mustache on TV for years and years and years. It's only when I became a presenter on CNN or an anchorman on CNN that they more than suggested that I should shave it off.
So they made you do it?
Yeah, they made me do it. The devil made me do it. No. One of the first things I did when we retired was turn to my wife. We were sitting on the couch and I said, I'm going to grow back the mustache. And she just laughed. I had a mustache when she married me.
Zakaria Jaber, independent filmmaker, emphasis on the independent.
That means broke, right?
Kind of. Well, sir, I just wanted to say one example and then ask you a couple of questions. My television is a table. I don't use it. Basically because the Lebanese media made me sick of it. Everything on it. From, with all due respect to all of you. Like, I like you guys. But I just don't like what you're sharing. Sometimes I like what you share. between Al-Manar and the Future TV and like New TV, LBC, whatever. There's always borders, there's always missiles, there's always rifles. There's no one trying to give you the image of a free figure of speech. Well, I just want to ask you one question. What is free media?
Free media?
Yeah. Free media is that media where journalists are allowed unfettered and responsibly to cover all things about the human condition.
But that never happens.
Oh, it does, with individual journalists on individual stories.
Exactly, broke journalists.
But
People that don't carry bags of money.
yes, exactly.
No, I'm
It's
sorry.
not free media. I'm saying that carrying bags of money is not free media. Being sponsored by a political party is not free media. Free media is the opposite of that.
But can we not generalize in
I'm actually
yeah,
not,
because
like, I'm
no,
not
because
saying
we are a free media, and any journalist in Al Jadid at least has their complete independence to do their stories. We do not belong to a political party. We do not take money from any political party, from any countries, political countries that have any ambitions in Lebanon or seek any political positions. So not all the media in the country is I do agree. There is a lot of, as May had said earlier, bombardment. There is in the media in our country, but this is because we live in a region. This is because many of the TV stations are owned politically, but it's also because we live in a region where we are constantly in war.
You should know that Lebanon, by comparison to so many other countries, has a much better media profile.
Actually, I just got fired of my job because I didn't want my article to be published censored. So I'm just saying one thing, like, if I want to work as a media specialist or a journalist in this country, I have two options. Sectarian
Not
media, or just being, stupid and following everyone, or, I'll just be broke. Well,
Or start your own media.
start my own media. That's just a way to make more.
It's possible. It's possible.
Well, maybe we'll make it.
We have YouTube now.
Next
I
question.
have more of a technical question.
All right.
You were saying to shoot someone from the shoulder level, not to shoot someone from the shoulder level, but if we did shoot him from a low or a high angle, wouldn't that make him make him look bigger or smaller and thus distort the objectivity of?
Well, what I'm saying, when I'm talking about the different angles that you use, that's in telling the story. That's not specifically for an interview. For an interview, you want to be at eye level. You know, if you shoot them low, you make them look like the judge, talking down to everybody. If you shoot them with them looking up, you make them look like the defendant standing before the judge. So being at eye level is what you want to do during an interview. When I'm talking about the video, I'm talking about, whatever you may be depicting, whether it's a demonstration or whatever it is, varying up the angles. Does that make sense? But you can do different shots, side angles and other things as cutaways in an interview. In fact, it looks good. And you can shoot people's hands as they're holding, as they're talking. You need those cutaways in order to make proper edits. When you have to, they make a mistake and then they go back and repeat something and you want to use the best parts of it. By the way, I didn't mention this, but for the students that are here, if you don't know how to video edit, you need to learn, because it's all going to be one-man bands. Everybody's going to be shooting their own video and editing it. And editing is a great way to learn how to shoot, because you realize, what the hell? I didn't get that. I used to have a cameraman that worked with me in the old days of film, and you were allotted 50 feet for a voiceover. That's a fairly short, maybe 3 minutes of film. You were allowed 200 feet for an interview and a little bit of pictures. If you're going to do a full package a full report, you got 400 feet. And one of the cameramen used to say, I could shoot the end of the world at 50 feet. And so somebody got one of the old film cans, these aluminum cans, and they nailed it to the newsroom wall, and they put a sticker on it that said, you know, Al Giddings, end of the world, you know, 50 feet, and then put in parentheses at the bottom, no cutaways.
Shall we take the last 3 questions? Shall we take them all together and then you can answer them all together, or would you prefer?
No, take them one at a time, go ahead.
Okay.
We got to make it quick now.
Yes, question on the middle. No, yes.
Hi, my name is Amy. I have a question about terrorism and media. Okay, so terrorism has the word terror in it. In my opinion, terrorists
Okay, Amy's asking the question that terrorism has the word terror in it, and?
I think, in my opinion, that the whole goal of a terrorist is to instill terror in individuals, and as many individuals as they can reach. Do you think, in your opinion, when journalists and news agencies start to talk about terror attacks and terrorist groups constantly on TV and dramatizing, well, I don't know if they're dramatizing it, do you think that they are helping them reach their goals rather than just bringing awareness to the individual of what is going on?
The word terror and terrorism are troubling. You're right. The more of it we put on television, the more they are encouraged to seek publicity. And they are seeking publicity. They're more professional at it than they've ever been before. We've never seen groups like this that were so professional in trying to manage media and trying to inspire followers and trying to encourage recruitment. The mainstream media doesn't seek to support that. It may be inadvertently helping them out. And then there's the whole political question, because the use of the word terror and terrorist is often done by people who have actually created the problem and who want to cover up their own activities. So it's a pejorative word, but once again, it's one of those words when in journalism and when sitting there in front of your TV set, you know it when you see it.
How are you? My name is Maher Saloom. I'm a political analyst internationally. I'm independent. I come from Lebanon, actually. I was born in Lebanon. I was raised in the States. To me, Lebanese media have been, just like the lady mentioned earlier, and I believe with the gentleman who was courageous enough to say that he was fired when this happens to a person, whether in Lebanon or internationally sometimes. It could happen. Now, from the basis of your experience, when you interviewed gentlemen or, ex-presidents like Gaddafi and other important figures internationally, how transparent were your answers actually by those presidents, and how pressuring were you when you handled, such figures internationally? I meant like Gaddafi. For example, I just want to give you an example. Gaddafi, to some Lebanese, especially the Shiites of Lebanon, he's considered as a murderer or as a kidnapper. He kidnapped Imam Musa Sadr. I am part of this sect, which is a Shia. But I'm Lebanese, believing enough. I'm proudly to be a nationalist. I'm a Lebanese in first. Now, did you ever have the chance to ask him anything about Imam Sadr? Yes or no? Just as well. And other than that, how transparent was CNN when the war by Israel on Lebanon in 2006? Was it biased enough, or was it unbiased, do you believe, as a professional? Thank you very much.
I was here and I was helping to cover the war in 2006, and so I of course feel that CNN's coverage was unbiased and really tried to bring out all different sides of that story. Difficult one to cover, no doubt about it. Pressure being applied, no doubt about it. And I'm talking about the broader media. Now you're asking the question too about, Imam Musa Sadr, whether I brought that up in an interview, and in fact I did bring it up with one of his people. But Gaddafi, the problem with Gaddafi, and it's a problem that you have with almost any world leader, you can ask anything you want, but you don't get to give the answers. That's the most frustrating thing. And you can think that you've narrowed them in and you've got them, and you don't really.
Was he too high to handle your questions, actually? You mentioned that he was high when you interviewed.
Just,
I know his
dictator, he's out of his mind.
And just talking about something totally irrelevant, something you weren't even asking about, so you're not getting anywhere. I was thrown out of a news conference here in the Electricidad du Lebanon building in 1982 when Ariel Sharon came in. And he canceled the press conference. I asked him the same question 3 times, and he canceled the press conference, and I was escorted out by armed soldiers. And he held a press conference later in the day, only for the Israeli media.
What was the question?
The question was, if you had to kill as many innocent Israelis as you did innocent Lebanese, would you have done this? And Sharon and I became, buddies practically later. I mean, I'd run into him, and he was very grandfatherly and just carried on. I don't think he remembered me.
Yeah, doubtful, very doubtful.
So I mean, but it's sort of the whole relationship you have with people, and what they expect from you, and you have to ask the tough questions sometimes. But don't think, like I said, you get to ask all the questions you want, but you don't get to give the answers.
Ask questions.
This gentleman's got one.
Okay, let's ask.
Okay, before anything, I would like to congratulate you on such an incredible career in journalism, and I would like to welcome Ms. Karim Al-Khayyar. Based on what have you developed your opinion on the pro-Palestinian cause? If you were going to say that you were against the Israeli occupation of Palestine, the unrighteous occupation of Palestine, in my words, what would you base your opinion on? That's 1. 2, what was it like to look Sharon in the eye? And 3, would you do it again by interviewing Netanyahu?
I've interviewed Netanyahu several times.
How was it?
Not pleasant.
Yeah.
Not pleasant. But he's got his point of view.
Yeah.
Certainly, he spoke, as you saw before the Congress. That was a huge embarrassment, I think, for our politicians, standing up so many times, basically to say, throw some campaign cash my way. And he was obviously using it for campaign purposes. The American people are very reluctant to buy into another conflict, and as they were sold in Iraq that it was going to really transform everything for the better, and now that they've learned the lesson, it's not. But at the same time, some of the points that Mr. Netanyahu made about mistrusting Iran, and its record in the region, its record here in Lebanon, need to be borne out. I mean, should sanctions be lifted? Well,
that's what I wanted to say.
Netanyahu may not be the right person to be talking about it, but the fact is that he did. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can talk about something I don't understand, or something that I
Well, you asked me, all right, how did I form my opinions about the Palestinians vis-a-vis Israel? That's personal experience covering the story year in and year out since 1982.
I understand. All right then.
Was there one last question? You wanted to take the question of...
Sorry, the press conference with Sharon was held in Beirut or in Israel?
That was in Beirut, in the Electricidad du Lebanon building at the top of the building. 82, yeah. Yeah.
Hi,
The troops were still, obviously, his troops were still here.
Hi, Habib Battah, journalist in Beirut. I was just curious about, we talk about excellence in broadcasting journalism and CNN, and we talk about the problems we face in Lebanon, which is obviously political politicians and their allies, their cronies own TV stations. We know about that very well. But when I was watching CNN's coverage of Netanyahu's speech, I had Wolf Blitzer on. We had a whole hour and a whole countdown clock for Netanyahu, and then Wolf Blitzer comes on and he interviews Newt Gingrich after that, who agrees with Netanyahu, and then after Newt Gingrich, he interviews Regev, the Israeli spokesperson. So it seemed entirely one-sided, and it's not the first time. I've seen Karen Amanpour, shake her glasses at, Khalid Mishal, and I've seen Wolf Blitzer, tell, Shimon Peres how young he looks. So I mean, there's definitely a difference in tone there. So I'm wondering.
She's lying. No, go ahead.
There's definitely a difference in tone there. So I'm wondering, as we know about the limitations that we face as journalists here in Lebanon, we know that very well. We always ask about that in conferences and stuff. What are the limitations you face in the U.S.? I mean, especially when talking about Israel, what are the kind of pressures that come to bear? We don't see a lot of investigators, maybe not just Israel, but also money in American politics, special interests, the defense industry, the weapons industry, the Israeli lobby. Are there pressures that are put to bear?
Of course there are.
Red lines.
Of course.
Can you give us some examples of that?
Red lines is going too far. There are pressures that are always put there, and the pressures are put there by a number of sources. There are more lobby groups in the United States right now, and more money, more billions of dollars being spent than ever in the history of the country. Special interest groups with the lawyers, groups that are trying to develop profits for specific industries. So all of that's there, and then you have the political issues as well. I mean, Stephen Walt and Mearsheimer wrote, the book on the Israeli lobby that pretty much outlines how it can backfire. It can be too much influence in that case. And so, we all look at it in the media feeling that, you have the freedom to say whatever you want to say. You can get your point of view out there. There's plenty of outlets where you can express yourself. But you're going to face pressure for it.
Can you give an example of pressure that you face?
I'm not going specifically into my case, but because I think it's the broader view that you really want to know. You can say it's regrettable. You can also understand it is inevitable. It's nothing new. It's been there forever.
Would you consider your resignation as part of the pressures?
No, well, I told you exactly that. Now for the third time. CNN speaks for CNN. I don't.
Yeah, but those who claim to put a pressure on it speak for themselves too, and they pride themselves in having juiced up the numbers and gathered the crowds that made it happen. It's on record on the internet and on Twitter.
Yeah, but on Twitter, I mean, that's why those are the Hasbro trolls that I really don't care for. And I don't think anybody that knows me expected me to put up with it. But...
no, but letting them enforce a resignation, which is what they
see,
make
you're
it
jumping.
sound.
You're jumping out now into exactly the area that I'm not going to go into because I have a legal agreement, as I outlined from the very outset. Huh?
There's always a loophole.
Yeah, there is. No, that's a manhole, not a loophole.
Okay, but I think it's really late now, and we have answered. Mr. Clancy has been very patient in answering a wonderful lot of questions. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest, and we hope to see you back.